there's a resurgence that's happening, especially in Europe, when it comes to COVID. How should we deal with COVID now?
I think we have to stay vigilant, as we've been over the last 2 years, and I think we have to use the technologies that have been developed to protect us, which in this case is the new family of bivalent vaccines.
Yeah.
These vaccines are both protective against the new strains as well as the original strain, because we don't exactly know where the virus is headed as it mutates to fight our immune system, and our immune system has to essentially mutate through technology to fight the virus. And that fight is going on. I know that some would love to believe that the pandemic is over, but as the saying goes, at least, you know, we may be done with the pandemic, but the pandemic doesn't seem to be done with us. And so we just have to stay vigilant.
So when you look at some of the bivalent, right, which I'm glad you pronounced it because I always get it wrong, when can you actually provide some of the efficacy data of how it works?
We have the bivalent vaccine that is being provided in Europe and in the UK is actually one for which we have human data, and we've provided it, and it's against one of the Omicron strains. A different strain, bivalent, that has been introduced in the US is being basically tested in the market right now because it's already available. So we are measuring vaccine efficacy, and we'll have additional data forthcoming. The reality is that no matter where we've looked in these, in humans as well as in animal trials, we've seen the kind of efficacy that one needs to be able to be protected. So I think data will come along, but definitely in field use, certainly in the strain that's in the version that's here, we have human data showing efficacy already.
If you look at the US, why was there a very slow rollout of the boosters?
I think there was a slow regulatory final approval in that they wanted a particular strain in the actual vaccine, so that delayed us a little bit. And then I think the uptake is a function of education, promotion, and you know, people are getting mixed signals. I mean, it was bad enough that people were spreading misinformation. Now they're getting confused about whether they really need it. And I think what you're seeing in the last few days is an intensified message that, you know, people are dying as a result of not being protected. There's no question we're having 300-400 deaths a day in the US. That is not an acceptable level to coexist with. And so I think we have to do a much better job.
But there are more people, and actually certainly in the summer, a lot of people had COVID badly or, you know, not so badly, and so think they're protected for a long time. It's difficult, like if somebody came up to you and said, look, do I need a fourth booster? Does it depend on the age? I don't know whether it's misinformation or really vaccine fatigue out there.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, look, I don't want to seem kind of tough-minded about this, but I don't know what vaccine fatigue means any more than I know what cancer fatigue means, or I know what hypertension fatigue means. It's your health, and at the end of the day, frankly, even beyond your wealth or your happiness, your health is the thing that needs protection, active, proactive protection, and that's what a vaccine does. So the notion that we should allow ourselves to get tired of protecting our health is something that I think one does by taking unnecessary risk. You could also cross the street, you know, during ongoing traffic and say, you know what, I'm tired of waiting for these cars. Yeah. And so I just think there's a correspondence that we're missing. Somehow we're putting vaccines in a different category, and they're not. They're just a way to protect your own health. It's your own decision. But overall, the data suggests that it is much better to be protected than not.
But is that because people still get sick? So where does this, you know, I don't know if you call it a schism, but if people don't want to get the third, fourth booster, is it because they think they'll get sick anyway and they were expecting the vaccine to do something else?
I think that it's important for people to understand that our immune system is what is the medicine here. The vaccine simply directs the immune system to do what it can do. The immune system, first of all, protects us against infection, and then once infected, it becomes therapeutic in that it actually goes after the virus and eliminates it. The therapeutic side of this, there's no evidence of that waning, and our bodies are very good at fighting back once it gets in. The vaccine helps you put off or reduce the chance of getting infected. It does not eliminate it. So with a vaccine, you're going to have a lower chance of getting infected, and in any event, you're going to have a primed response once you get infected. Without a vaccine, you have a much higher rate of getting infected, and then once you're infected, your immune system is going to be relatively slow to respond. I think that's the kind of contrast, and between those two, the first option seems to be more protective overall.
So are people willing to get, you know, boosters more here in Europe and certainly in the UK than in the US?
It seems that the level of trust between the people and their healthcare providers, particularly with a central NHS here and elsewhere, is much higher in Europe than it is in the US. I think in the US we have kind of a confused state right now. You know, there's depending on your zip code, depending on your education level, depending on your political party, which is remarkable affiliation, people are and are not choosing to get vaccinated. Look, this is a bit of an opportunity for the virus to find laboratories in which it can mutate, namely people who are not well protected. And so the fight is dragging on somewhat because people are making these choices, which is further allowing the virus to mutate. The virus has more mutants available now in people's bodies than it did previously because it's proliferating. Not just because sometimes we think mutating means you go from A to B. There's A to 50,000 letters now out there. I mean, it's just proliferating, and our immune system is going to have a harder and harder time if there's ample places for it to keep mutating.
But the more we vaccinate, does it change those mutations or no?
The more we vaccinate, the more our immune system goes after one aspect of the virus, then other places become vulnerabilities. So the virus is trying to escape wherever there's pressure, but in some places where there isn't kind of enough pressure, the virus can replicate before it has to be fighting the immune system. So look, if I said from 2 years ago, this is a battle between a life form that is preying on our social behavior and contact and our immune system, which is designed to fight back, but is struggling because the virus is really mutating very quickly.
Noubar, yesterday, so there was really encouraging news about cancer vaccines. Broadly, what's your approach to those and how they'll change?
Yeah. In fact, cancer vaccines are programs that we've been working on for 5-6 years, and cancer takes quite a long time. But interestingly and coincidentally, that we had worked on cancer vaccines is why we could respond so quickly to go after the virus, the COVID. And the reason is that a cancer vaccine is doing a similar thing, which is it's telling your immune system to fight a certain number of new sequences in your body, namely a cancer sequence instead of a virus. So that program has been ongoing for a while, and it's been gradually collecting data. What we announced yesterday is that through our partnership with Merck, which obviously is a very large pharmaceutical company and very accomplished both in cancer and in vaccines, that they chose to expand and enlarge their collaboration on this program. And so it's very exciting to see that.
But this would be what, an incremental benefit of being vaccinated on top of the old school therapeutics to fight cancer?
Right. So let me clarify that in the case of cancer, we're talking about a therapeutic vaccine.
Yeah.
Remember I said in COVID, there's a preventative and a therapeutic version?
Yeah.
Well, in this case, you're using the therapeutic because you already have the cancer. Yeah. And so the way that works is that you're showing all the different sequence variants to the immune system that your cancer represents, and the immune system is much better armed to go after it. So it's using vaccination as a therapeutic, not as a preventative.